200. I don't think we're going to be on the board.
We are live. Thank you, Mrs. DeGraw. We'll go ahead and call our meeting to order. I want to welcome all of our visitors. Thank you for coming. And I will go ahead and lead us in pledge. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, the floor would be open for a motion to approve the agenda.
Madam Chair, I make a motion that we approve the agenda.
Is there a second? Second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. The floor would be open for a motion to approve the minutes from our previous meeting.
I move that we approve the minutes from our previous meeting.
And I'll second that, Madam Chair.
Okay, those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Mr. Williams, your superintendent report.
Thanks, Madam Chair. I'll pull that up here on the screen. There it goes. Need to refresh. All right, it feels like a short month since the last one, since our board meeting in February was on the 4th week, and now we're on the 3rd week. So not a lot to report from superintendent board. Just a reminder that we did have a school survey for parents that was sent out. This is one that the State Department puts on. Right now we've had over 50 of those that have been completed. I was talking with Mr. Harrelson on that. And so we appreciate that. The responses are anonymous and confidential, and they're welcome to take a survey for every single level of where their kids at, elementary, junior high, or high school. I'll just keep moving through there, and if any of the board members has questions, they can stop me as I'm going through. Our technology department, busy time as we're preparing for next year. We'll be talking about a Chromebook order in the action items, E-rate wiring. Remember the E-rate and hundreds of thousands of dollars that we get. Our E-rate wiring project consists of putting wiring throughout all the buildings in the district for just upgraded wiring for the internet, fiber optic. Yep. Professional development for Otis. Our LMS is going to be starting to happen with some teachers, installing the monitors and teacher computers. Maintenance and grounds. Some things we'll talk about also in the action item, art room remodel, drop ceilings, to also prepare for some of that wiring and installing those monitors. A lot of work to do. Here's a congratulations to our food supervisor, Lisa Ward. So she applied for and was voted to be part on the National School Nutrition Association. And so she was voted to be a Northwest Regional Representative. So she is representing the entire region for the School Nutrition Association. And so she'll take part in webinars, and this association, she will be required to go probably back to Washington, D.C. for a couple of conferences as well as they do that. And it's nice to have somebody, not even just here at West Jefferson, but locally, to be able to have that honor. That is a huge honor for her. And she's done a great job running our program in a great direction during the pandemic and everything with COVID. Her crew has been doing an awesome job working with her, so I just wanted to have a shout out for her. Congratulations, and just highlight that as we have one of our staff members serving on a national regional board. Transportation, the new bus has been ordered. We're expecting that to come in August. Our elementary school, so I've asked Mrs. Tillman, who is here in the audience. Mrs. Tillman has been in charge of putting on some of our activities at the school and does a fabulous job. And so this last week, they had a Dr. Seuss activity. So Kayla, if you want to come up and just
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to introduce myself for maybe people who don't know me. My name is Kayla Tillman,
This is my 4th year working here, and this year I'm the 3rd, 4th grade elementary teacher at Tarleton. And this year I had the honors of being this was my 3rd year, of being the Dr. Seuss Week chairperson, and I am like very passionate about it. And so this year I chose the theme based on the Sneetches book. And in case you guys were not familiar with that, I don't know if you can see it. Yeah, there we go. In this story, there's these Sneetches, these creatures who, some of them have stars and some of them don't. And the ones who have stars, they think that they're better than the ones that don't. And then it goes through this whole process of this guy moves to town and he takes the creatures, money. And he turns all the creatures who don't have stars to the ones that now they suddenly do have stars. Well, the creatures who had stars before, they're like, wait, we were still supposed to be better than you. And they decide it's not cool anymore to have stars. So they go through the machine and then they get their stars off. And it keeps going through this process over and over and over until you get to the very end of the story. And they're all out of money because they paid that guy everything they had to keep changing their stars over and over and again. And they finally learned their lesson that it doesn't matter if you have stars or not. And I thought it was really great that it taught like a good discrimination, against discrimination, about that the rule is really to be kind to each other no matter what we look like and who we are. And I also really liked it because it had the star symbol in it. And we're really working this year in the PBIS at the elementary school. We really use that symbol of stars. So with the Rise Up that we've had the last couple of years, it's reach out, improve, smile and joy, unite and praise. Well, now I've introduced these little star cards. And so when they do one of those things, they get a little star card and it goes on a grid, and then we have winners. Then the stars represent students. T is for that, A is for apply, and R is for rise up. Students that apply, rise up. So I was like, well, this story is going to tie in perfectly with our rise up theme for this year. But also it's so important this time with so much like cancel culture and things that are going on in the world to teach them about, the lesson that's really important. So I came up with this the Sneetches week, and I used the acronym again from STARS. So I don't know if you can, there. So each student had to read 5 books. Yeah, that's my book report here. And this went to every student K through 4th grade. Well, kindergarten was more modified. In fact, kindergarten 1st and 2nd all had a totally modified one, so it was appropriate to their grade level. This is a 3rd and 4th grade one. They had to read 5 books, and inside here there's room for the 5 book reports, very simplified, so the things they could do. And they had to pick books based on 5 different categories. So the first one was a short book by Dr. Seuss, that's letter S. The T was a tall book by Dr. Seuss, like this, because he basically has 2 different styles of books. The A is an animal book that's nonfiction, so they were still reading books that are a different style. R is a reader's choice, and they could pick whatever they wanted. And then an S was a silly book. So this could be like a fantasy, a fiction, a graphic novel, a joke book. It didn't really matter. I tried to pick categories that would be applicable for all students on their own reading level between the grades of 1st and 4th especially. So they, over the course of 5 days, they had to read 5 books, do 5 book reports in 5 days, because it's a 5-pointed star, of course. And so once they received that, then in the hall, you probably saw earlier, there was this, I didn't bring it, but there was all these Sneetches, and then they could see their green stars on them. They would earn a star on their belly. So as kids went up and down the hall.
The left one or the right one?
The left one. The big one right there, and the big under the stars on Sneetches, that's the kindergarten. They had a slightly modified program.
Okay.
So anyways, they would earn the green star on their belly once they received it, and then everybody knew who was still working on it. And nobody really was like saying, I'm better than you. It was really, they were encouraging each other, because if everybody earned a star on their Sneetch, then we were going to earn a Sneetches on the Beaches party, just like they had in the story, where they're playing games. You can see them playing games over here on the beach, and they're roasting Frankfurters. So as of the week, was it 2 weeks ago when we ended it, almost every student had a star on the belly. There was a few who were gone the whole week because they were out of town or their parents, were sick and they had to stay home. And so I gave them additional days to make up that work so everyone could have that completed. Also, I was going to note one of the personal prizes they all got was this like ribbon, and there's a star on it, and it says Superstar. I kid you not, after they earned them, they would wear them to school like every day. So they were like showing that they had a star on their, on their belly too. I loved it. And I was so grateful for the PTO's support in purchasing prizes and for helping me put it all together. So I was just going to let you know that we're having our Sneetches party. It's going to be on April Fool's Day, on Thursday, April 1st. And Mike, is that his name, Kimbrough? is coming to barbecue hot dogs. And so all the kids kindergarten through fourth will be eating hot dogs. And I've got all these, like, there's 15 organized games. It's going to be like a little field day. And then if they'll have little cards. And if they do at least 10 of the activities, the PTO is furnishing ice cream treats as well. It's been a fun project. And my whole goal is to get excitement for reading and accountability, not just like flipping through the pages, but can you say what your favorite part is or something that you learned and who is the author and find it in the story. And I think that it was great. And it was a great lesson and applicable to all the ages. I just loved it. It was my best Dr. Seuss week yet. So
It was like school board. It was amazing, and a lot of the teachers. With the organization of Mrs. Tillman, it was awesome. A lot of support, a lot of people involved with it. I'm looking at these pictures here. When I walked into your classroom, is this one of your class right there?
Yeah, that's my students.
Like, how many things did you have in there? You had
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 things. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's amusing, Mrs. Tillman, that you use Dr. Seuss's book
Of course.
Yeah. And
Every
then
year I use a different book for the
Yeah.
theme.
to show non-discrimination.
For sure.
that and,
Mhm.
and you resisted the cancel culture movement.
Which interestingly enough, I had already picked at this and worked all this out before I heard the whole, like, let's, not publish any more of these 6 books, but I'd already knew what I was going to do. So I'm like, I just love Dr. Seuss and how it teaches kids easy lessons through easy reading, and they really can understand it. So
Very nice.
thank you. I did have one more item.
Absolutely.
Okay, of business. My class is having a museum this week, and I was going to invite you guys to it. I hope you don't mind. But this is Shaw Williams's what do you call it? My gosh, display. Anyways, these clear things were ones that the school ordered for like you want
to show that
sneeze
later,
guards.
that one there.
They're like sneeze guards. They were clear. And I decided to use them because we didn't end up needing them through COVID to put on a class museum. And so through the grant, I wrote a grant through the Ed Foundation, and I was able to acquire about 30 different Who Was Who Is books. And every student got to pick somebody that they wanted and they were interested in. And then they had to fill out an outline and they created a timeline of the most important events of their life. Keisha Scott came 4 times and taught them how to do appropriate facial features. And then they've typed up like a history of the person's life and important and cool things that they've learned. So anyways, this next week, I'm having a historical heroes museum, and I just wanted to invite you in case you wanted to come, so you can see all the work that all the kids in my class have been doing. This is like our big show, and I'm really especially grateful for the Ed Foundation for agreeing to purchase these books. It's been so helpful for me because the last few years I've taught 2nd grade, and I needed to acquire a whole bunch more reading books for 3rd and 4th, and I've used those in my curriculum to have age-appropriate reading that excites them. So thank you for that.
And I'd like to put a plug, just as a thank you to those that have donated to the Education Foundation. It's a lot of community support
For
for
sure.
that. And then 2 of our board members sit in on that, on the Education Foundation, Mrs. Perkins and Mr. Schmidt. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
And we're glad that it was,
It's good to see the fruits of our.
For sure, yes, that's why I really wanted to invite you. So it'll be this Tuesday, March 30th, and all day long in my class. And I've signed up for kids from 1st all the way up to 6th grade are coming through. I have 10 different tours all day long, so the community is welcome as well. So during that time.
Yeah.
Thanks again so much.
Oh, thank you. This is a lot of your own personal time invested in this.
It's worthwhile for sure.
It's worth it for the kids.
That's for sure. Yes.
and you're welcome to stay for the remainder of the meeting, or if
I
you
just want to have
have,
a date.
if you have another appointment. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Tillman. That's one great example of the many different things that our teachers are doing throughout the school. And, and we'll keep going. We had Idaho Day earlier this month. I believe that was the
Yes.
5th. I just didn't put it on there. And I'm like, oh, great. But it was the day that Abraham Lincoln signed the territorial agreement for Idaho that we should be formed. And so this was one way that we celebrated. So this is the 4th grade class from Mrs. Mackey. And they put together a collage of different things with Idaho history that they've been studying. And so you can see that there's Lewis and Clark on some of those throughout, and different things with the
There's
native
like some mountain
populations.
scene there.
And so that's been displayed over at the school as well.
That was March 4th.
March 4th, not the 5th.
That's another donation from the Ed Foundation.
Yeah, it's really good to see how these funds help the classrooms.
Just an announcement as we're going through the elementary, the public library will be closed until March 29th. I believe that's through spring break this next week. Update on the cell phone procedures. Very positive, very, very positive so far as I've talked with the teachers throughout. The kids have actually stepped up and we are not seeing them in the classroom. And when they are removed and taken to the office. And so still up to this point, I haven't had one parent make a complaint about this, but I've had many parents say thank you. And so
I think somebody just needed to put their foot down.
well, this is something that, as we look at things, it's hard to know how strong of a stance to take at certain times, but
When you do, sometimes it's really appreciated.
I think the right move was to stop at 8th grade and let the high school govern themselves.
Yeah.
We'll see how that goes, but I think that helped to not have even too much blowback on that.
for sure. So our secondary schools, I just wanted to highlight the math department. Mrs. Bell has been putting together some professional development on our last professional development day. She invited all the math teachers in the secondary, which would have been Mrs. Burnshaw and then Mrs. Morton at the end and herself. Then we also invited the 4th and 5th grade teachers to go, and they went over some strategies with Veronica Blackham, who works for the regional math department at Threadneedle State. She was here, and they were going over strategies to help with growth mindset in teaching math in the different math departments. I've asked Mrs. Bell to prepare a report to come to the board. Whether we do that at a work meeting, it's a little bit easier for her schedule to come during a work meeting, but possibly before the end of the school year, to give a report on our curriculum, our secondary curriculum. I know I've had some questions on that from parents at the POM meeting. Why do we have this type of a curriculum? And she'll give a report on the things that she's seen. And now that we have that one curriculum all the way from 7 through 12 that we believe is going to start building. And then she's had some ideas on how to strengthen that in the 5th and 6th grade as well. So those are some things that we're looking at upcoming. Quite a bit of extracurricular things to report on. Last month when we had the wrestling state tournament, Tegan Hansen and Cameron Wright placed 4th, Josh Reyes placed 5th. So those were our the ones that have placed. On the last superintendent report, I shared everybody that qualified. These were the ones that actually placed. And Josh Reyes actually had upset 2 seeds higher than him in his first 2 rounds. And so I think he beat one of the guys that was supposed to go to the championship round. So good for him on that. Basketball, and I'll have a couple things below that, but just to update that at the end of the year, there's a senior showcase. Kyson Gabrish and Jaden Burnshaw were selected to go to that. Kyson also was voted to first team for the conference. Honorable mention went to Jaden Burnshaw. The girls' senior showcase, Lacey Dowling and Carly Johnson were invited to go to that. Lacey Dowling actually received the 6th District Official Sportsmanship Award, and so there'll be a banner and a scholarship that she'll receive for that. Lacey was also voted to first team for the 6th District. Second team, Kimber Meekum, an honorable mention went to Eliza Anderd. Coach Jelena Dixon was selected as the 6th District Coach of the Year, and generally that there's times where that type of voting usually goes to the person who wins the conference. But it was interesting that was voted on by the other coaches in the conference. And so they felt like she got a lot out of the players that she had. And so congratulations to her on that. Our spring sports, high school track and junior high track have started. Tomorrow we will be having a track meet here at West Jefferson, 2:30. I took a quick training out on the track with Mr. McDonald on how to be the starter. So I'll be shooting the gun starter tomorrow. Excited about that. I don't know. I think it's more of desperation than a training. And so I will have the gun with the blanks, Officer Deputy Keller. So just it will be here. Baseball and softball have also started. Actually, the boys are playing against Teton tonight as well. So excited that we're into spring. We're actually doing things this year that we never accomplished last year.
That's good.
Isn't that great?
Exciting.
Like, it's really exciting. Business Professionals of America, we had a virtual state competition, and I was unable to get these posted on there. I will get this updated. But there were Bailey Cottle was able to rank first in diagnostic coding, which is, so she was a first place finisher at the state with that. Bailey Cottle also had a second place ranking for health insurance and medical billing. So these are things where they just enter that in. Peyton Scott was fourth place in entrepreneurship. Hiram Spencer was fifth place in state with the C+ programming. And Linda Munoz received a rank of 10 for legal office procedures. And I've heard from Mrs. Scott that Peyton, fourth place, maybe above, will compete in the national competition, which is super exciting, except I guess the downside is it's all virtual still. So these high school members, Bailey Cottle, Peyton Scott, Hiram Spencer, and Linda Munoz, those that did qualify for the nationals aren't able to go to a national conference, but these are some great skills, that when you're looking at the medical billing and diagnostic coding. And so for our students to be able to place in a state competition like that, and I'll find out more information and we'll be able to report back on the virtual national competition. So congratulations to those individuals. Our music concert for March 2nd, Mrs. Parker is a busy lady where she has orchestra, band, and guitar during this last trimester. So here we have a couple pictures of all three of those. The members of that are shared on this one. I'm not going to take the time to go over all of them, but it was a great concert to attend. She did a fabulous job, and the students did a fabulous job. Mrs. Parker's talking about ways to get a pep band started again here at West Jefferson and continue with that momentum. And definitely she has our support. That's what we want to see. We want to encourage these students to continue with that, looking at ways to maintain scheduling in a way that Mrs. Parker will be able to continue to grow this program. So really appreciate her and was super proud of all the students in each of these. I actually was able to go to a couple guitar classes during just popping in, and it was fun. I actually think, Nedra, you do have a granddaughter. Yes.
Star.
A star there by Haley. Yes, she did. She just did a great job. And so it's fun to see that. So our track participants, we can see that for this spring, here are our track participants. Basketball, these were just other things that I pulled off of Facebook with the help of Mrs. DeGraw. Thank you for doing that. And Mrs. Hall, who posts these things to our Facebook. So those that follow Facebook, here you go. Those that only follow the board meeting and the superintendent report, here you go. So again, Coach Dixon, Coach of the Year, and here just shows the different players of the year throughout the conference. You can see that Lacey Dowling there was awarded the Sportsmanship Award, the different players on those teams. So that's all. A couple last things, we're getting ready for spring sports. We got some pictures taken of the baseball players working hard to get their field ready. It is ready. They're playing on it tonight. Softball had a game last week. Thanks to the maintenance department for helping get that ready. Big thanks to Coach Hadley, our athletic director, also spending time out there on that. To Coach Burton Shaw, and Coach Raquel Torgerson for the softball. So, any questions, school board? That's a report. Always a lot to report. A lot of really good, fun, exciting things happening in the district.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. I don't have any public comment forums, so we'll just skip over that. Consent agenda. The floor would be open for a motion to approve the financial and personnel.
Madam Chair, I move that we approve the consent agenda, financial and personnel.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Any discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes, thank you. Down to our action items, the plant facility project.
All right. In our February work meeting, let's see. I'm not sure. Oh, there it went.
Oh, it's just taking.
It just took time to load. I was like thinking we had a malfunction on the technology. In our February work meeting, Mr. Soderquist came in with a proposed list of projects to use for our plant facilities. And I have in the description here with this this proposal for a plant facility project at Hamer Elementary. This was one that was on that meeting. And so Idaho Code 331102 specifies what plant facility funds can be used for. And plant facility funds can be used to remodel and repair existing buildings. We are currently operating under a 10-year plant facility bond, and this will be up for renewal in the 24-25 school year. The current plant facility amount is $300,000, and a third of that or a half of that amount is earmarked annually for transportation purchases. The district's goal is to maintain a balance of $200,000 for unforeseen facility emergencies. Plant facility cannot be used for salaries and benefits. It has to be used for the things that are set out in Idaho Code 331102. And by law, that's what it's for. The balance of our plant facility as of this meeting is $385,000. So if you go into your accounts, you'll be able to see that that's what we have. If we minus the $200,000 for the balance that we are wanting to maintain, and this could be a balance that if the board directs me to increase that or look at it as a way, that's something that we could have a future discussion to say this is what we need. But this balance was actually created before I became superintendent, and I'm not sure when it was, but it generally speaking is something for a major event, a boiler or something like that that goes out that's unforeseen. That's why it would be there. So if after subtracting that $200,000 for that balance that we want to keep, there's $185,000 to be used that's available through the end of June 30th. Now, a lot of these projects, some people can look at it and say, wow, there's a lot of money that's going to go quickly with different projects that we have, because that's the idea, is to try to use that up as much as possible before the next year. So going to the proposal, consulting with the maintenance supervisor, it's been determined that the east roof at Hamer Elementary is the roof that is in the worst condition in the district at this point and needs to be repaired. This is evident that there are leaks in the main entrance and near the lunchroom. Anybody that's been to that building will see that there is damage that is starting to come on the walls because of leaks that have been going on in that building. The district has received a bid for $37,240 to complete this proposed project. This is one that's a recommendation that I have, that we have the plant facilities, which have been voted on by all patrons in the district, to look at, to be used for all buildings in the district. And that's why my recommendation is that we use plant facilities to replace and fix the east roof at Hamer Elementary. This proposal would complete the entire roof, whereas last year we replaced the west roof. This would complete it by finishing it off with the west roof. Are there any questions from me, from board members?
What was the proposed amount during our last meeting of what the cost of this was going to be?
40,000 was the estimated one. So if we go back to that, 40,000 was the estimate. When we called Briggs, this is what they said would be so it came in just a little bit lower than that estimate.
And how many other roof repairs were listed on that paper?
So the next roof repairs, if we're going in order of what needs to be repaired, would be the main gym. The main gym also had roof repairs on it that would be the next in line. So this one is in the worst condition. The second roof that would be close to needing repair would be the main gym. That sheet that we talked about had a lot of different projects in there, but some of them don't have the same leaking with it. It's just kind of, that's where they place that out. So with other years would be able to address those roofs as well. So Mrs. DeGraw, looks like you pulled that up on there. The ones that were yellow, and again, these weren't voted on, these were ones that we would just receive feedback. And then once we,
He's gonna go ahead with all those things that are under,
as far as we can,
as far as we can.
as far as we can. So you can see that 185 will go fast, and there's not enough money in 185 to go to everything. But that's where we're looking at what would need to happen.
So why is re-roofing the high school gym not part of that list of roof repairs and things? Is it just not?
He was trying to identify the ones that are needed the most right now. The re-roof high school gym for 60,000.
Yeah.
And that,
They wanna do it before they're ready.
and that, yeah, that's one question. That's a good point, Mrs. Perkins. Some districts, I don't know, may follow a pattern where they say every 20 years we just replace the roof, whether it's leaking or not. And sometimes, as I've talked with Mr. Soderquist about this, he says, well, if you can get a few more years out of it and then get it extends it and saves money. And so the roofing at Hamer, I believe that the east side was replaced in the early 90s. And so we're close to 26 years on that. It probably should have.
So it's really not much older than the gym roof.
No, it's a little bit, but you're right. It's
About the same as the
about the
gym.
same.
What was the cost to replace the gym roof? Was that
60.
60.
Right here.
Oh, so that's the high school gym roof, that's the gym, the blue gym? Since we haven't
I
named
might-
that gym ever.
You know what? I might be mistaken on that one. I will need to double check while you're asking on that one. Replace gym roof. There it is, PE
There it
building.
is.
Okay.
That one's also 60,000. And that's in our second tier, so that's what he was hoping would be able to be put on the bond
If there was
models.
a bond. So so as we look at the plant facility, which we're so grateful to have. Without the plant facility, we would have zero money to be able to put towards any of this, because the money we receive from the state is for maintenance, and maintenance will cover like utilities and basic custodial supplies, not fixing things. And so because of that, the plant facility will help get us through this. And it only goes a certain amount as we're trying to do that. And that's why every so often a bond discussion will come up with, well, let's get a little bit more to attack more of these projects.
Is there any more discussion? Floor be open for a motion.
I'll go ahead. Madam Chair, I make a motion that we accept the plant facility project of the Hamer Elementary School roof.
Been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
All right, that motion passes. Next, we have the plant facility project for the art room.
So this is just again another project that we've discussed on the last work meeting. And again, the description is similar to the description from the last action item. Proposal for this one is that funds be made available for the remodeling of the art room, West Jefferson High School. This will include some drop ceilings, removal of the tile and buff the floor, and new cabinets. We do have some estimates that have been attached here. board policy does say that any purchase over 5,000 needs to be
Board approved.
board approved. The cabinets are coming in around 13,000. The drop ceiling is 3,500 for that room, but we have three other classrooms that we are going to do with that. And then the floors will come in about 6,000. So some of that would be for this one, but others will go out, but because it's that purchase. These projects will be taking place during the summer and should be completed before the end of next year.
Super.
That's wonderful.
So any questions?
The floor will be open for a motion.
Madam Chair, I move that we approve the funding for the art room
Remodel.
remodel.
Is there a second?
I second that.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. Thank you.
Last.
Right along.
4.3, the next plant facility purchase. So the 40-plus-year-old metal cutter in our ag shop broke, and it's been replaced various times. Mr. Bird informed me that it was used when he got here, and that was many years ago. But I asked him to find a really nice one that could last another 30 to 40 years, and so this purchase will allow the welding and ag fabrication class to have the necessary equipment for their building to be equipped for the programs. And so going back to 33-1102, these plant facility funds can be used to furnish and equip buildings or any building or buildings. And so the bid amount came in at $10,816.
Okay. Is there any questions about that? The floor will be open for a motion.
I move that we approve the purchase of the ironworker metal cutter for equipping the ag shop.
And I'll second that, Madam Chair.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. Thank you. Okay. And a technology purchase for the Chromebooks.
District Technology Department is preparing for the 21-22 school year, looking to replace and update Chromebooks for secondary students. Currently, the senior students who graduate and have paid the optional Chromebook protection plan are allowed to keep a Chromebook. And so as they keep that Chromebook, we replace that. Chromebooks generally have 4 to 6 years use on it, and it's mostly because of the technology updates. And so,
So do they start with these as a freshman?
yes.
And they're taking that same computer?
Yep.
Okay.
So they'll take that from freshman through their senior year, and
And so 75 Chromebooks, is that how many kids we have?
Yeah.
Graduating?
well, there's 75 Chromebooks, so approximately 60. Some of this will be used to pay for cover those that have been broken or lost.
Sure.
10 of these will be earmarked for the junior high through CSI Up. So the funding for this proposal will come from general technology account and the CSI Up account. Since discretionary budgets have been cut at the district level, and I'll talk about this in the, I have the legislative update. I'll talk a little bit more in detail on this on the legislative update. We're not sure if we can use any other federal funds to possibly pay for this, but right now we are going to use the technology account and our school improvement account to be able to pay for these. So the quote that we did have is for 75 Chromebooks, and that does come with the 4-year warranty.
28,000.
Super. Is there any questions, Mr. Williams? If not, the floor will be open for a motion.
Madam Chair, I make a motion that we purchase the Chromebooks for the 2021-22 school year, the technology purchase.
Second?
Those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. Thank you. Okay, we need to certify the election results from March 9th from the supplemental levy.
And so we received the notice from Jefferson County that the election was complete, and I'll pull up those official ones, but the school board just needs to certify those results. Click on that. I have the unofficial amounts on the last work meeting that we shared. You can see that the total was 216 in favor of the supplemental levy and 98 opposing it. There was almost a 30% registered voter turnout, which, you know, in some years there's only 40% that turn out for national elections. So when you're looking at that, it seems really low, but compared to a lot of other districts, this is quite a high number of people who turn out. And so that's what we have.
We appreciate the community support on that.
I concur on that. Thanks for supporting our school.
I agree.
And, you know, just as a point of clarification, we've talked a lot on these other action items about the plant facility and what it can be used for. The supplemental levy can be used for and will be used for salaries and benefits. And these are the ones that when people say we need to keep teachers here, we don't want to spend money on a plant facility. Legally, we can't use plant facility to do that. So we're working with two different pots of money and two different focuses.
This is really important. So really appreciate the community support on that. So the board be open for a motion to certify those election results.
Madam Chair, I move that we certify March 9th, 2021 supplemental levy election results.
And Madam Chair, I will second that motion.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Finally, at some remote learning days.
Yes, we have, and just to come to the board, we need to ratify these days just as an acknowledgement that the board was aware of the calendar schedule change due to COVID cases in both of our elementaries. So that we've moved to remote learning just for those days that are posted in there. Hamer Elementary was March 10th, 11th, and 12th. Territon Elementary is 17th, 18th, and 19th. As of right now, the break for the Hamer Elementary students is looking to have been effective. I haven't heard any indication. It just so happens that the Territon Elementary Junior High one falls right next to spring break, so that will continue. I know there's been some rumors on Facebook that we're not going to take the kids back after spring break because of last year. We will bring them back. Yeah. Looks like Mrs. Cherry's kids are coming back to school. But even with this, when we had this is only the second time the third time total where we've had a big disruption. The one during Christmas came at a time where we had huge increases in the county. It came right after Thanksgiving. There were really huge increases. And by doing what we did, there were 2 or 3 different families that came down with it after that. And so we were able to stop that spread from continuing. With this last one, with these recent ones, again, we're seeing huge increases again in the county. And so I think we know that from last time, this is going to help. The goal is to stay in as much as possible. And so we just appreciate the board's support in this. Hoping that we can figure this COVID thing out. It's been a year, you guys. It's been a year on this.
I'm just grateful that we've had our kids in all year long with just minor interruptions. I think the plan has worked, and I appreciate, parents keeping their kids home if they're sick, and everybody trying to wash their hands and keep clean hands. And I just am really appreciative of this community for the support they've given us in keeping schools open.
Yeah. Keeping the schools open is going to be a big benefit for the children. There's other communities where they're not going to school, and I think that just only hurts the students.
All right. Before we open for a motion to ratify those days.
Madam Chair, I move that we ratify the days that we mentioned, remote days due to COVID cases.
I'll second that, Madam Chair.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. Thank you. Okay, that's all our action items. Move on to policy 4000.
All right, we were able to receive from ISBA the next round of the 4000 series, and thank you, Mrs. DeGraw, for being able to put this in the format that you've been able to do. And so the table of contents, I'm just going to pull that one up. Since this is the first time we're talking about it, it gives us a chance to look through. So this is a table of contents. This one does not have the highlighted required.
So that table of contents is the list of all the available ones, because I wanted the board to be able to see
So these
the
are
available ones, and then in the edited one is the required policies that we are currently looking
the edited. So these edited ones right here, these are the ones that are required by law to have. And so following the same pattern that we did before, we will move the other policies into a procedure folder. We'll work towards those. The district will still follow those procedures, but it doesn't need to come to the board. If there's something in that procedural file that we want to move to a board level, the board has the freedom and ability to request that and do that as well. So as we start looking at these, you see that the required ones are pretty limited, but they're, there's a lot about public access, public participation, and different things like that. So these will be through. The board can look at that, at their convenience before the next one. If there's any suggestions or things to change in those, we'll be able to do that at the next either work meeting, and then this will help us get through the 4000 series and moving on to the 5000 series. We got a little bit behind in our policy process. When I was first hired here, I said, hey, here's a list of everything that you get to do, and oh, by the way, you're changing all your policies, or updating
Right.
updating the policies. And so that's kind of where we're at. COVID threw us off a little bit this last year, but this is one I think we'll be able to move through and get board feedback as we have a work meeting.
What's that?
The edited
How big is
document.
that? Can that be? I like to know.
We
I can print them off.
we can
each
print those
night.
off for the board members today.
Yes.
Instead of that.
PaytoPlay, athletic geek, and elected.
So just a discussion, this is more for information for our patrons. At our last work meeting, we had a discussion with the high school administration and athletic department, looking at the losses that are going to be potentially received because of COVID. And that was approximately $14,000 that we were looking at would be a loss of revenue. In that work meeting, we discussed different things to possibly use and do to look at that. Some of the things that we are looking at is our pay-to-play amounts, our athletic gate amounts, and elective courses, whether or not those are something that a fee can be charged to those or not, whether required courses are the only ones that can receive a fee. And so those are just things that wanted to bring up. Right now, our pay-to-play is $75 for the high school. It was proposed to be $40 for the junior high. And that is one of the least expensive ones, almost by half to a lot of other districts. And so that's something that we're trying to balance. Where do we have a pay-to-play amount, that covers the cost of what we need without us having to, dip into other resources to cover. Athletic Gate is another thing. We've done some really nice things for our community. Senior citizens and veterans enter into our games for free. And that gesture comes with a cost of limited funds. And so other things, our family pass is $120. And if you have a family of 4 and you go to all 4 football games, basically you attend the rest of the year without having any money go towards that. I know there are pros and cons, upswings to that, because our community is very generous. It's been very generous, and sometimes it feels like every time we turn around, as I've talked with other people that have kids in dance companies and things that are non-athletic, same thing happens there. They have to pay for practices every single month. Then they have to pay for their costumes. And then when they show up to the auditorium, they have to pay to get in there as well. It's just one of those things that, this is probably the cost of this extracurricular. And I'm not, again, this is just a discussion. We're still trying to propose where that's going to be at.
Did you get a chance to see a kind of a general area of other schools are charging you, maybe a list of all the ones we participated in?
Yeah. Yeah, the gate for some of the schools in our conference or the season passes are about $250, which are more than double what ours are for a family pass. And pay-to-play for some of the others are $100 per sport or $120, or and these are things that we're looking at. Right now, the process has a low pay-to-play and a required activity card fee for those. Possibly we look at increasing the pay-to-play, not requiring the activity card, something along those lines. But again, we're just trying to figure out what's the best we can do. And this can transition into 5.3 unless there are any other questions or comments on pay-to-play. Just where we're looking at that. So the 5.3 that was the legislative session update, the Joint Finance and Appropriations Committee, they're the ones that are currently meeting right now, and they finalize the school budgets. The reason why I say this connects with athletic pay-to-play is we have been able to receive several grants or federal monies that have come in since COVID came in. The governor had a press release today. I was able to listen to some of that. And they were explaining some of the differences and things that will have to happen with it. What's happened though, from our perspective as a school, is we've received money in grants, and we were told you have to have it spent by December 30th. Like when we had and it can only be used for technology to help aid in blended learning or remote learning, or to buy hand sanitizers and masks and different things for the schools that way. And so we were able to take that, spend it all. We spent it well. Like that was the thing that we didn't want to spend it just to spend it. And so we purchased those monitors and teacher computers that are still getting pushed out to the different buildings and different classrooms. And then we heard about, well, now you have what they call the ESSER 2 monies. Well, they had the ESSER 1, and so that's where we were able to pay some of our teachers a stipend for their extra COVID duties that came in. And that was another one that said, well, now you're going to spend that by a certain amount at a certain time. Then it was announced in December that or early January, that we would receive what they call the ESSER 2. And it was just another amount. And that came out to be roughly 290,000 that was going to be earmarked for West Jefferson. But on the surface, that looks like, wow, we're going to get a ton of money coming our way. But what's happened is in JFACS and in the legislature, they take our funding, and the discretionary money that we get is decided by this group. And that's the money that there's an equation with our support units, which we have 37.11 support units, and you multiply it by the discretionary divisor amount. So what happened is this group reduced our amount from 28,000 to 22,000. So we're roughly going to have 180,000 less in discretionary money, with basically the legislator saying, we know you're going to get this money from ESSER, from the federal government. So we are going to reduce your discretionary money.
In addition to.
Correct. Yeah. And so this is what's happening right now. And then that's what comes on top of the announcement of, we have a surplus at the state, but I'm going to give a tax break to everybody. And so now it's coming out that the federal government is saying you can't give a tax break based on this money. But in a way, Idaho is not doing that because they're taking the tax break from the discretionary money that was allotted for schools to give the tax break. And now we're taking that money, that 290,000. Now we have to make sure that we have about 180 of that to be able to cover the discretionary things that we should have been able to get. And so that's what's happening right now. That's why we can't really move on the SR2 monies. And that's why when I look at my email, I get inundated with people saying, hey, I know you're getting all this money and you need to buy a new HVAC system and this and this, but we don't have it. We don't know how much it's going to be. And I was really hoping that we could look at a way to say, okay, how could we increase our clinical psychologist who comes from out of town next year? These would be great ways to do that to help address COVID issues. But because the SR1 said you had to spend it a specific way, and we did, SR2 opened it up a little bit, but now it appears that we are being forced to say, now that it's opened up, we're going to take this away from you. We're forced to fill that in and backfill with that. And so the governor did announce today that the SR2 monies had to be pushed over to schools. We're just waiting to see what other streams, even though the federal government didn't have the streams, but because that money has to flow through the State Department and legislature and JFAC, they can basically set the parameters for how it's going to be spent. So we're just going to wait and see. Some of that money could have been used to backfill that 14,000 for the athletics that was down. But now, and that could be a one-time thing because we didn't want to do that every single year. Now it still could, but we won't know until we have more information. So, and then there are SR3 monies that could be coming, but that could be another. That's just what it is. And so I know that as people listening, there's a lot of different politics on schools, but this is how it impacts us. This is how it impacts our organization when we look at it.
I appreciate how you explain that. It's more understandable.
So any questions on, and that's what I know. So what we're hoping for is that by the end of this month, we will be able to have our final budget numbers. And so this is, Bingham and I will be able to sit
them until April.
in April
When is their timeline?
for the legislature.
Their last day is scheduled for March 26th.
That's my Friday.
Yes, and there's talk that they might recess so they can come back when we get the ESSER monies. But now that the federal government is putting other stipulations, and probably what I'm seeing on this is the federal government started seeing what some of the state legislatures were doing and noticing the money didn't get to where they were intending it to go. Put in there that it can't be for tax breaks, it can't be for this. And letter of the law looks like they are following it because they're not using it directly for a tax break. But indirectly, the state legislature, JFAC, still has the ability to take our discretionary money and cut it, but it's unprecedented to cut it by $6,000 for FTE on that. It's very specific in what they're trying to do, and it's just one of those things that, and unfortunately, it's been a tough year. We've worked hard. We've been grateful for the federal money that's come through. It's really helped us. I think we've used it really well, and we've used it in a way that will bless and benefit our district and our teachers. It's just, we'll see what we have. I think we'll still have a piece to get. We're just not sure how big it's going to be. Okay.
Madam Chair, I have a comment on the legislative session. There was a bill that went through the House to take away the August election date, and which would hurt all the school districts in the state. So it passed the House, it went to the Senate, where it died in committee. So that's a good thing. That helps the school districts. We need that August election date because a lot of people or a lot of districts run bonds. So that's good news. That's good news.
Okay, that brings us to bond discussion.
All right, I just wanted to have a chance to, with the bond discussions, I have not completed the survey, trying to get that, but I'm looking to have meetings the first week in April, where we'll go around and the purpose of the bond discussion in these meetings is I want people to help me solve this problem or question. What do we do now? What do we do now? There are unforeseen times still, but I still have a job to do to look out for the next step. We know that we do need to have, at the very least, remodels that are completed. There is uncertainty with the cost of construction material, but this is also one of the best times ever with our bond rates to be as low as they are historically. And so just out of situation, I want to go to these meetings looking for people to say, this is what I think we should do. I'm hoping they're not wanting me to come and say, this is what I'm trying to convince you to do. Because it's not about that. And if people want to explore options of building new, with whether that's some of the things we've talked about in previous meetings, or whether that's something completely different than what we've even thought of, this would be the time for them to do that. If people want to come in and say, I just would like to have remodels right now and maybe in a couple of years, there's a lot of things to weigh, that weigh on me with this, because the people we're talking to right now and investing have kids here right now. And they may want to see something happen right now. If we can, a lot of that's going to also depend on the economy, construction costs, on whether or not the things that we were looking at will fall into that range. I really wish we could predict the future and be able to be like, okay, this is where we're at. But we will always have buildings in this district that need repair. It will always exist. And there will be a time, whether we grow or not, that we may need to look for expansion. And that's where, I've discussed that in previous meetings where we're looking at the pros and cons of what do we do with the facilities. And I've talked with different groups, and some are really excited about some things and some are a little cautious, and that's understandable. And I'm hoping from these community meetings that I'll be able to get input to say, this is what we think we want to do. And the surveys that we put out for those that don't come, that this is what's going to guide when we get into June. Because the time frame would be by June, we need to know what we want to do and be able to put that up for a proposal, whether that proposal is to do nothing, or that proposal is to have remodel projects only, or new projects and remodel projects. That's going to be the decision that we need to come, and I'm hoping that this process will help me gather information so I can bring it to the board and say, these are the things I'm finding out.
So when are you planning your meetings?
Have not, as I look at the busy schedule in April, and it's filling in super fast, trying to not do it on a night where we have like track and baseball or softball. It might be a Monday night. I might be doing it on Monday night. Well, that's Monday, Tuesday, maybe Wednesday on the, I don't know if that's Final Four time, but I guess we might have to record it. I don't know. I don't think BYU is going to make it that far anyway, are they? Mr. Gonzaga down there.
I can't remember who BYU plays. Do you remember?
No, I don't. But they usually get the point.
They should make it to the second round.
Wait, don't mess with this.
I'm just trying to go off of, but I'm looking at that first week of April to be able to do that. I don't think the survey is going to be completed by that time. And I don't intend to share the survey results with people at the meeting. Okay. I just want to get feedback.
Mr. Williams, the final game is April 5th.
Oh. Well, it's just gonna be Gonzaga. No one's gonna watch that.
Everybody's.
Okay. So I could probably do a 5th, 6th, 7th, even though there's a baseball game on one of those nights
We could invite the baseball parents to attend any other
on the other evenings.
community night.
Any other questions or
And
thoughts?
do you want us to go to this?
You're welcome as board members to go to it.
What if there's 3 or more? Is that a problem?
If you have 3
A quorum?
yeah, if you are gonna go to a certain one, it'd be better that you either stay
Kind of
apart.
coordinate that not 3 people.
I
show
would
up to the
probably
same
coordinate
meeting.
with each other.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just so 2 show up.
Just
probably.
only 2, yeah.
I'll go to Amy.
All right, sounds good. Administration assignment.
All right, and so I've announced in the district that we will be having some administration reassignments for next year. Mr. Harrelson, who's been serving as our elementary principal, will be assigned to the 5th grade through 8th grade as the principal. He will also be receiving an assignment to teach 2 guitar classes during that time. So he'll have a part-time teaching and part-time administrative spot. He will be moving offices down the hall, which will be a little bit closer to the 5th and 6th, 5th through 8th grade hallway. There's one of those rooms kind of across from the library in that area. It'd be the next room past the gym, the little gym in there, little kid gym. And he'll be taking responsibility of that. He'll also making these changes early because I want him to start looking at junior high elections and having a junior high election for a student council. That's one area that we felt like we need to strengthen the leadership opportunities for the kids and have a junior high student council that's functioning with an advisor. By way of Mr. Harrelson teaching those guitar classes, it's going to free up the schedule for Mrs. Parker to be able to focus on splitting up band and orchestra and also offering choir throughout the year so she has a chance to go to those programs. Mr. Johnson, who we've seen here at the board meetings, he will be assigned to be the preschool through 4th grade principal for Hamer and for Tarleton. He will also have responsibilities for federal programs, some testing coordinator, and he's going to continue to oversee as an instructional coach for the reading intervention programs, even though he wouldn't be teaching an individual lesson like he's doing this year, but he'll still make sure and supervise those different groups. As I've talked with Mr. Harrelson, he's super excited about this change. When these types of things go out and announcements may be made one way or another, and I did send an edweo out to parents on this change as well. You know, initially there was like, did Mr. Harrelson get fired? What do you do with this? No, on the contrary, he's going to be helping in a role that really benefits kids. And one thing that with Mr. Harrelson is he is 100% in for the kids and on board for that. And Mr. Johnson is super excited to be able to continue to work in that role as kind of an instructional coach with his background knowledge in reading instruction, interventions with math. You know, those are things that we're really excited about. So I just wanted to announce those administrative assignment changes for next year.
Okay, and finally, the board scholarship.
Okay, this is just one that, just as a reminder, the years past, West Jefferson School Board, the members have donated $100 each to go into that. Mr. Guimar has been sending out information on that. I just wanted to make sure the board was aware that that's still out there. I guess we haven't taken action to take it off. I didn't have it on an action agenda, so I guess
I recommend that we keep doing it. I'm hoping everybody's in favor. You know, $100 is a lot of money
and
you know, but it goes to such a good cause to help a worthy student. I think it's well worth it.
And last year was the first year that, you know, as I was as superintendent, and I also want to donate that. Even though I'm not a voting member of the board, I'm sitting on here as the advisory.
So it'd be 600, that'd be wonderful for student.
Okay, that's all we have. We don't have any other, the next board meeting is on the 15th. We'll see if we need to fit in a work meeting or just focus in on those community meetings first, maybe pull a work meeting after the next board meeting if we need to finish up everything.
Okay, before we open for motion to adjourn,
Madam Chair, we adjourn this meeting.
is there a second? I second that. Those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. Thank you.